here with you, but no, you don't have two of them are not seniors. What went into the decision to bring CJ and Jaxon instead of maybe a couple seniors?
Well, we had a young team last year, and I think coming off of last season on the field, especially with the way that those two guys played in the Rose Bowl, and then the off-seasons that were had, they were both selected by their teammates on the leadership committee. And I thought when you combine the leadership they had in the offseason with the way that they played last season, I just thought they were the right guys to bring on offense. And then Ronnie, I think Ronnie really has put his time into this program. He came in, had his ACL injury, kind of grew, build, good days, bad days. But this is the type of veteran leadership we're going to need next year, especially on defense. And I think he's really taken to the new scheme with Jim Knowles.
This is the first time you've come here not as the Big Ten defending Big Ten champion. Michigan obviously won last year. They're confident they're going to repeat. What's kind of the mindset of the team? How hungry are you guys? I know complacency is something you fight against, but how hungry is this team right now?
I think the thing that's unique about Ohio State is, every year, we're expected to win the whole thing, and that's part of the deal here. A lot of times you go 11-2 in the Rose Bowl, you say that's one heck of a season. Well, not around here, and we knew that going in. And our goals every year is to be the team up north, win the Big Ten championship and the national championship. And so we didn't get those things last year. And so the expectations don't change year to year at Ohio State. We all know that. So is it different this year? No. The team's different, though. I think that we have more experience than we had last year. We have a veteran quarterback coming back, a lot more guys on defense who are more veteran, a new scheme on defense. So every year is different, but the expectations are the same.
So many true freshmen played last year. Sorry, Tim. So many true freshmen played last year. Did you expect that going into last year? And then how much is that going to help you now with those guys being a year older?
I think it helps a lot. I think experience does help, and I think that's something that Gene and I spoke about in the past was just, playing as many young guys as possible so that, when they get to, year 2, 3, and then 4, they have a lot of experience because there are a lot of, teams in this conference that, when they get to the 4th, 5th year seniors, they're a little bit more veteran. And so we want to make sure we got experience to our young players, and we did that last year. And we had some really good games. We also had some growing pains along the way. And so hopefully that does pay off in that investment last year.
Do you notice through the winter and off-season workouts, is there a chip on the shoulder of this team that maybe wasn't even there last year?
I just think last year we were so young and we didn't know what we didn't know. This year we know what it's like to lose a game, and we know what it's like to lose that rivalry game, and that was not good. And so there's some scars there, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and we're sitting here talking to Michigan people yesterday, and they seem pretty confident, but they got their act together. I mean, it kind of empowers somebody when that happens, right? I mean,
Sure.
have you enforced that with your team too, that it starts all over? I know it does. But
yeah. But every time you play, you put it on the field. That's what's at stake. And you have to make sure you understand that when you show up every week. And I think that's the thing that we focused on this year is competitive stamina.
Yeah.
Is being able to bring it week in and week out, and play our best football at the end of the season. Because when you think about towards the end of the season there, had a really good game against Purdue. Top 10 team at Michigan State. We played really well, but then didn't play well in the last game, and so that's not acceptable. But I think the guys now have a little bit more of some perspective on that as they head into the offseason, which I think has been really, really good for them. Now as they head into the preseason, I think we have to have a really good preseason because Notre Dame shows up in the first game of the year, and so we got to be tough, we got to be physical, and have really good leadership. But preseason will be important.
I'm not sure anything bothers a coach more than when they get beaten along the line and they get dominated in the trenches. Michigan was pretty candid saying last year they expected to do what they did last year. How much motivation is that? How much has that been a point of emphasis this year that we've got to be stronger on lines?
I mean, it's always a point of emphasis. We have to be able to, especially when you're on the road, you have to be able to stop the run and run the football. And if you can't do that, and when weather's not very good, that's another thing. You have to be able to do those types of things. So, we're going to make sure, just like every year, that's an emphasis. And I think that, with our guys in the offseason we've had and showing toughness in this preseason, you're going to get what you emphasize, and we'll make sure we emphasize that again this year.
All right. What's the preseason schedule? Are you guys doing anything unique this year as far as how you're ramping into the season?
No, not really. They've made a lot of changes over the years with just how we can do things. Really not two-a-days anymore. But the last couple of years, we kind of fell into a rhythm on how we do things, but nothing new.
Do you have captain's name already?
No, we'll do that in the preseason.
Do you like having CJ and Jaxon kind of get a taste of a spotlight today, knowing that that's going to be following them all year long?
I think they've got a feel for that in the last year. I think that, being at Ohio State and certainly the way that they played in the Rose Bowl and CJ being a Heisman Trophy finalist, Jaxon, same thing, just getting a lot of attention. I think that they know what that's like. But But it's good for them to come here. This is where the Big Ten championship is. It's good for them to see it, talk football, just kind of get a perspective from the national view or from the Big Ten view of where things are at. I think it's all part of the maturity process.
How much does having Notre Dame, a top 5 opponent, coming into Ohio State Joker, kind of amplify the preseason? It's been a while since you've had an opponent that big coming in early.
No, it does. It amplifies the preseason for sure. You have to play your best football right then and there. You can't take a game or two to find your footing. So that game is going to be amped up. It's going to be kind of a frenzy, and we know that. So preseason is going to be very important this year.
You opened last season on the road in the Big Ten game, though. Did you kind of use that as a blueprint for how to manage the preseason, knowing that last year you guys had to hit the ground running right away too?
Yeah, but last year was so different. I mean, C.J. Stroud had not completed a single pass in a college football game. And so we were just so young. Our defense, when you look at the guys that we had on that team, I think the combined starts were under 20 across the whole 11 guys. And so we were really green and really young and really didn't know what to expect in that game. But to your point, we did have to have a really strong preseason and be ready to go because they knew they were going to run the football. And they ran it pretty good in that first half. And then we were able to kind of respond and play better in the second half. But yeah, it's going to be similar that way. And preseason will be similar to the way it was last year. Just a different team.
Are you going to have Lathan Ransom for the start of the year, and what's the status of preseason?
Yeah, he should be ready to roll. I don't know if he'll be doing teamwork right off the bat, but he's going to be having almost a full preseason.
What about Josh Fryar?
Yep, same.
Will he be ready?
Yep,
okay.
same.
This is the first time we've got to talk to you since expansion and whatnot. We got to talk a lot about UCLA, USC yesterday. I'm curious, how has recruiting gone for you in California, and just what are your thoughts initially on Big Ten expansion?
Well, I think it gives us a lot of juice as a conference. I think that's exciting. It's certainly a big move that I give Commissioner Warren, the athletic directors, presidents a lot of credit for. It was a big move, and it really helps our conference and gives us a lot of juice. I don't know if I can tell you that right now we're seeing a big effect on recruiting. I think we will as time goes on, for sure. Certainly NIL conversations are a little bit bigger right now than this conference expansion, but it does give us a lot of energy and juice knowing that now we're a coast-to-coast conference.
How do you think the team looked during summer conditioning, strength rows? How did it go in?
Everyone says they look great, right? So, I guess I'd be the only coach to say that they didn't look great. But there has been an edge to them. There's been a different look in their eye that I'll just leave it at that.
I think you guys were able to do a little bit more this summer in past years just based on NCAA rule changes. How much of an advantage was that?
I don't know if it's an advantage because everyone has the same rules, but it certainly allowed us to be further ahead in what we're doing. First off, it allows us to be more involved. Secondly, it allowed us to use a football. So we were a little bit further ahead in terms of just throwing and catching and being more involved with the football part of the game and techniques and fundamentals.
When you see Jaxon, Smith-Njigba and you select him to come to something like this, his leadership, when you think about him his first year to now, what stands out about his leadership?
Well, his play speaks for itself, but I think his leader, she's a quiet leader, but when he speaks, people listen, and he's very well thought out when he speaks, and he's got a strong backbone, and he's, I guess you'd call him a quiet leader, but when he speaks up, they listen, and so it's good to have him here.
I know you have a lot of depth on the defensive line, and you have potential stars. You look at a couple guys kind of stood out to you as this could be the next Chase Young, that's unique, but a guy who could be an elite player.
Well, it's hard to say because we have so many guys on the D line right now, and it's a deep group, like you said. And I think when you see some of their body changes, you're going to be surprised. They had a great offseason. I don't want to pick out one guy, but I know it's going to be good to have Tyler Friday back. It's going to be good to have some of those younger guys who've grown into year 2 and 3. That'll be great. Zach Harrison. There's a bunch of guys in there. JT, Jack. They all look really good right now. So, again, if I say one, then I'm going to forget somebody else. But yeah, I think all those guys look strong right now, and that's going to be exciting in the preseason to figure out. But I think to your point, it's good to have depth. But who's going to take the next step as the next great one to be the guy that we're counting on to make a play on third down when the game's on the line, and that'll be the challenge.
On the offensive line,
yeah, Josh is going to be back. Those are two guys, Tyler Friday and Josh Proctor. That it's going to be. Those are two tough guys who are good players, veteran players. That they bring good leadership on that side of the ball. So that's going to be great to get them both back.
on the offensive line, how do you feel about your starters, and do you feel better about the depth than you did maybe in spring? I know you mentioned that was a concern, depth on the O-line.
Yeah, having Josh back is going to be important. Zen has had a really good offseason. Enoch has had a really good offseason. So And we're getting some of the younger guys in there. Now we have all the freshmen in there, so we're able to see maybe if those guys can help, kind of like Donovan did last year. So, yeah, feeling better about that. But I'll know more probably in the first couple weeks of the preseason.
What about the starters? Do you feel good about the starting five?
We'll see. Yeah. I mean, when you look at both tackles, Paris and Dewan, they're both very talented. Both have played a lot. Paris not as much as tackle, but they've and that was the reason why I wanted to get Paris in there last year to play, because he was, even though he was a guard, he still played a lot of football. Matt Jones has played more now. Luke had a great year. And then Donovan is going to be younger, but we think he's very talented. So when you look at those five, you think that those are five really good offensive linemen. And then, get to 6, 7, 8, 9, you feel better about the depth.
I'm pleased with the way the community has responded to your $13 million call. NIL, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean...
is it crazy to be... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well,
it's like 3 questions in one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on with this right now. And when you look at what our guys have done, it's pretty exciting. When you think about in the last year, our guys have made money off their name, image, and likeness, the way it was designed.
Yeah.
When you combine collectives, when you combine inducements, when you combine all these other things that come into play, you have to try to figure out what that means for your program. But we're always going to advocate for our players and be aggressive, and so we're going to continue to do that and try to project out what that means for our guys.
Yeah.
Would you be in favor of playoff expansion? I know Gene there was an article with Gene's comments about the number 16 getting thrown around. Would that be too many, or is that a number that you'd be comfortable with down the line?
Yeah, I don't know if I can even answer that. It sounds exciting, but there's so many things that come with that, and I got so many other things on my plate right now. I'm going to leave that up to Gene.
What are the one or two biggest questions you have going into camp? We're going to get questions.
I don't think it's questions. I think it's more of just getting out there and practicing and building the callous and the toughness of and being game ready in game one. I mean, I do think the depth of the offensive line is something that we have to continue to work on. Which are the guys that are going to step up? Because we do have a lot of good players, but who are the guys that we're going to be able to count on in that first game? And we'll learn more about that in the preseason.
Ryan, you had guys tackle in the spring game. Do you think that kind of set the tone for the summer? Now looking back on what you guys did in the summer,
I hope so.
Did that do something for you?
Oh, we got to tackle in this first game. We're going to have to tackle and continue to do that in the preseason. But yeah, I hope so, because we got to do that. We got to play well, and I think the maturity and the offseason that we had, the toughness and leadership is going to show. But we got to continue to practice that, just like that in the preseason. But I hope that kind of carries over for sure.